to restrain the people. It is an instrument for the people to restrain the government, lest it come to dominate our lives and interests. Patrick Henry.
America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it would be because we destroyed ourselves. Abraham Lincoln.
I predict future happiness for Americans if they can prevent the government from wasting the labors of the people under the pretense of taking care of them. Thomas Jefferson.
Property is surely a right of mankind as real as liberty. John Adams.
The Constitution is the guide which I never will abandon. George Washington.
Welcome to the Saturday morning wake-up call right here on KFAR. It is hour one of the program called Patriots Lament. I'm Steve Floyd, the man of the face made for radio and half of a voice today. And joining us in the studio, as always, from Bighorn Enterprises, we have Josh Bennett. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning.
And joining us from parts unknown here in the studio, actually with us, we've got someone of unknown and undeterminable national descent. Good morning.
Good morning.
Claudio, I need you to get a little closer to the microphone. Let's try that again.
Good morning.
One more time.
Hold that sucker right up to your lips.
Good morning.
There you go. Now we got you. All right, Mr. Bennett, take it away, sir.
All right, let's do this. So we got 4th of July coming up, where we get to celebrate something. Independence, I guess. Freedom, barbecue, beer, get drunk, go back to not thinking, go back to work. I'm going to read a little thing from Eric Peters that got sent to me from Jim last night. And the whole point of this is the 4th of July week, right? I better get this right.
Yeah, actually,
coming up here is going to have the 4th.
Next Thursday is
right.
the 4th.
So we're going to be celebrating, and they're going to be flag waving. They're going to have all these parades, and everyone's going to jump up and down and say, USA, USA, and act like they're free, and they're hopelessly wrong. In a few days, we'll all have an opportunity to peacefully inflict a major psychological blow on the rapidly coalescing police state by the simple but powerful act of refusing to play along with the absurd pantomime on the 4th of July that we live in an even nominally free country, or one with the rule of law, an operative constitution, and respect for individual rights, one that isn't a thugocracy. We can turn our backs on the flag, decline to participate when urged to cheer and sing. No fireworks, no barbecues. We are not okay. We can sit down and bow our heads. We can mention the unmentionable. There is no longer any meaningful limit on the power of government over our lives. No line beyond which it may not tread, the government. It lies, it spies, and it tyrannizes. We can admit to ourselves the shoddy and frightening reality bubbling up all around us. By doing so, we can shatter the illusion that this government operates with anything remotely approximating our consent. This is absolutely essential. The 4th of July pantomime requires that we deny the obvious, that we instead pretend we're free people living in a free country, one in which the government is accountable to the people, one in which the government is limited by law, one in which people can't simply be dragooned onto prisons without due process, held incommunicado, tortured, a country with a president who doesn't have a kill list, or use the instruments of state power to punish and intimidate his political opponents, one in which citizens must be suspected of a crime before their personal correspondence is filtered through and recorded for later use against them. one in which a traveler is free from arbitrary and random searches of his person and effects, one in which the Attorney General of the United States isn't able to get away with providing guns to gangs or brazenly lie about his use of the power of the office to go after political enemies rather than pursue justice. But all these things are everyday realities. And the reality is that the America we once celebrated on the 4th of July is gone, replaced by something dark and ominous. It's so painfully obvious. Why do we pretend otherwise? More to the point, why should we celebrate this ugly transformation? Mourning is what's called for. And he goes on to just talk about the thugs, this and that. He says that China had a Tiananmen moment, when one brave man stood up to a column of tanks and changed history by the simple act of refusing to play along. By peacefully forcing the thugocracy's hand, it forced a hard choice. It could either run a man down in full view of live TV, crush him under the threads of a T-72 tank, and thereby give real life and incontrovertible evidence in the true nature of the relationship of the Chinese government vis-a-vis the average Chinese. Or it could back down and thereby be compelled to alter the relationship in a way at least somewhat more favorable to the average Chinese. I said China. We have a similar opportunity coming up, a chance to confront the police state by refusing to pretend it's not a police state, by coming to grips by what it is. And what it is nothing to celebrate. I urge you to join me this 4th of July in turning your back on the flag, on all the grotesque homilies to a country that no longer exists because of the government which does exist, and which desperately wants us to pretend and keep playing patty cake and pretend that it does not exist. Shall we throw it in the woods? All right, your turn.
Oh, that's me.
Comment.
You know, I saw that post from Jim. Actually, I saw it this morning. He got back from fishing yesterday afternoon, and the idea that somehow we would turn our backs on the flag as a form of protest, as a form of saying, no, I do not go along with what's happening to our country right now. I think it actually it could go even farther. It could begin an awakening within people about how much idolatry is wrapped up in the imagery of the flag. And how much...
the state worship.
Exactly.
That's where the state worship comes in. But guess 200 and some odd years ago, these people were having the same conflict, weren't they? The Americans, they had a flag. They had a country. They were loyal subjects. They loved their freedoms, and they turned their back on it.
Well, then they loved their king. I mean, that's
they did.
That's kind of one of the things that we here in America have forgotten over the years is how much people love to be led.
Yeah.
And that's why we see this cult of personality that rises up around people like John F. Kennedy. It's why, and you know, he's the big hero from the left side. And what about Ronald Reagan?
Mm-hmm.
How many so-called conservatives worship at the shrine of our great leader, Ronald Reagan?
Yeah. If you're under attack and you're a Republican, just invoke the name of the Lord, Ron.
Mm-hmm.
And then people give you the pass. But why we're going to have all the patriotic songs this weekend. The country music stations are going to be playing Toby Keith over and over and over.
God bless the USA.
Yeah. Why? Why should he bless the USA anyways? Because we're peacefully promoting democracy across the land?
Well, take it. Just, I mean, for my friends who are struggling with this and who are hearing the words that are coming out of your mouth and the words that are coming out of my mouth right now, and they're thinking to themselves, what kind of freaks are these that are urging us not to stand and salute the flag, that are urging us to turn the back on the flag on the 4th of July? What kind of anathema is this? These people ought to be burned as heretics. If you're thinking that way, put it in a different context. How do you react when you hear about people in North Korea singing hymns of praise to their great leader? How do you feel when you hear about people being urged in their churches, in their houses of worship, to go and make war in the name of their God toward the unbelievers? In this case, you think about the jihadists and
Muslims.
Yeah, how do you feel about that? Don't you doesn't the hackles on the back of your neck come up a little bit, and you think to yourself, man, these people are freaks. Well, the freaks are the ones who have exchanged the worship of God for the worship of state, aren't they?
Yeah, what is the difference? There's none. We've been so nationalized. We don't even see it. We're not. When you turn your back, so to speak, to the American flag, does that mean that you love the people of the country any less? Does it mean that you hate people? That you hate America or what it was supposedly founded on? I mean, we can go to the Declaration of Independence and see what their grievances were. We can look back and see what, even if they had faults here and there, they still had a good thought, a good intention to be free. Unfortunately, man is man, and we got what we got. But why do we have to go celebrate the 4th of July and act like we're proud to be Americans where at least we know we're free? And gladly stand up, that whole stupid song, really? We're free? President Obama can kill you without due process of law? We've talked about this before. Due process of law is the one thing that separated us from the rest of the world. We demanded due process. That was one of the huge things. And due process means someone has to have an accusation against you, have evidence against you, and present that to a jury of your peers to even be able to drag you into the court, because you and your property, your person, are so precious. How dare someone bring you to court and take away your time? Unless they better have a darn good reason for it. And he had 12 to 24 people decide whether or not, yes, he did commit this act, or there is a possibility, there's enough evidence to say this man could have committed that act against another citizen, another human. I'm done with the word citizen. Against another person. That's part of the due process. And then you had to take that evidence to an impartial judge who had to look at that evidence and say, well, the grand jury said such and such. And then they had to present you and tell you, hey, we have this, come to court. And then you got a trial by jury. And then they had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you committed such a heinous crime against your fellow man, not the state, the man. Due process. There is no due process. And they couldn't just come barging on your property and arrest you, right? Like they can now. Think about Mike Anderson, where they just, come on, this stuff happens. I know we all think, well, he must have done something because we're so stupid and we've been so
conditioned,
programmed. Yeah. They come and they drag you off and they can hold you for however long they want. They've codified that. That's in the law. We can drag you off, hold you in a cell somewhere. We can take you to foreign lands, Guantanamo. That was another thing in the Declaration of Independence. He has taken us across foreign waters and held us prison until we were able to, whatever. And he took us to across foreign waters to have trials. They do it now, and they put it into law. It's not just like, oh, those sneaky guys. No, they made it a law. Just the whole thing with the surveillance state that we're in. It's not like these guys didn't know about it. The Dick Cheney the other day said, well, back in 2004, I presented Congress with what we were doing. He presented the whole surveillance state program, the prison program, to Congress, and Congress just said, well, keep it quiet so no one knows about it because we don't want to be held accountable, but keep doing it. No separation of powers there, no protecting the people, and then the whole thing is, well, we're here to protect you for your safety. It's not government's job to protect us from ourselves or to keep us, quote unquote, safe. There's nothing in any of the founding documents or any of the old common law writers or the property rights guys that we talk about, the Locke's and the De La Boetes and all of it. They never say that government's there to protect you, to keep you safe. The only thing is to protect your rights. And we're back asswards with the whole thing that, well, because we have government, now we have rights. Opposite. Because we have rights, they thought we needed government to protect those. Once they go outside those bounds, they're illegitimate. And we're going to celebrate on the 4th of July, and everyone's going to get weepy-eyed, and they're going to sing the national anthem, which I actually like. And they're going to pledge allegiance to flags probably on Sunday. A lot of your stupid churches are going to do that. And if your church asks you to pledge allegiance to the flag, you need to get up and leave and never go back. That's my personal conviction. If your church has you pledge allegiance to a piece of cloth, you need to leave. That's idolatry. You're worshiping an entity other than God.
Oh, snap.
So I would ask people, maybe we ought to have a rally on the 4th and march somewhere around here with flags upside down, and we'll march around and show people we're not in a good state. We're not in a good place and time. And we don't need more jackholes coming in and making it right. We're not going to hire someone or elect someone that's going to come in and say, well, I'm going to fix it. Joe Miller's not going to fix nothing. What's the lieutenant governor's name? Meade Treadwell's not going to fix nothing. Mark Begich isn't going to fix nothing. None of them are. Because that's the exact opposite of what their intent is. It's the exact opposite of what the intent of their office is. The intent of the state is to grow. Ron Paul was the strongest person in Congress for the last 30 years, and he could do nothing. And that guy was impeccably honest. They couldn't find anything wrong with him. He stood up day after day after day after day and pointed out and warned people, this is what's coming. This is what's coming. And it happened over. I mean, he even called the bubbles, the housing bubble. He even told about what year he thought it would burst. And it did. And he was still mocked because he wanted to have less state.
And even then, Ron Paul could not, like you said, he could not solve it. He is only a person.
Right.
You cannot expect a person to come into a broken system and fix the system.
No.
You cannot expect to find solutions to the problems by going to a political system in the first place. Political solutions are only going to make more problems.
You're playing their game.
Exactly. You know, I was having the conversation this week, just yesterday, with the person I went fishing with, and talking about how if once you go away from natural law and you start making up laws out of thin air, that anything you do at that point is illegitimate.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter what kind of government you think you have, what kind of system you have. If once you've gone away from the natural law, you refer to common law, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I asked him, can you make a law against gravity? And he laughed. He said, well, you could, but it wouldn't do you any good. But exactly. I mean, can you imagine having the borough require that you come in and get a permit to stay on Earth, or else you might fly away?
This borough, I could.
I think
I could imagine
them that.
trying to do that. At
You
least.
need to get your gravity permit. Come in and purchase your gravity permit from the borough so that we can review whether or not you deserve to be kept on the planet.
Let's not celebrate. It's like Eric Peters said in that thing. It's time to mourn. It's not time to celebrate. We were given a great opportunity 200 and some odd years ago, and it got destroyed. It's done. We have no semblance of. I mean, what, Claudio? What was that thing you were just showing me? What did it say with the slave and the?
Yeah, it's chickens, and that the chickens on the chicken coop does, and then have the free range chicken, and then they have a whole bunch of prisoners, probably in German, Nazi Germany, and then have a picture of walking the street and working, and their lives still was slaves and free range slaves.
What was the caption on the bottom of it? You still have it?
Yeah, I gotta find it here.
While he's perusing the internet
Here it's
on his fantastic. Okay. So, like he said, it shows a picture of chickens in a chicken coop, and they're just in those little cages, where it's obviously an egg farm. And then below it, this shows a bunch of chickens that are free range. So it says chicken. Then below the chicken is free range chickens. And then it shows a picture of a Nazi concentration camp with a bunch of people in it. It says slave. then a picture below it of people walking around, like he said, on the streets, free range slave. And the caption says, the most effective form of slavery is a system that allows just enough autonomy to give the illusion of freedom while keeping the public in a perpetual state of indentured servitude. And that's where we are. You're not free, because if you really think you are, just try to do. Freedom is doing what you want to do without hurting someone else, right? We've talked about that
without having to ask permission.
Without having to ask permission. You get the wrong ideas in your mind, you go to jail. You go walk across the wrong grass, you go to jail.
You say the wrong word,
you go to jail.
And you lose your job.
Yeah, I saw that whole thing with Michael Dukes, that he said the N-word on the radio, and everyone's freaking out.
He was reading a direct quote of what got that woman fired. And by reading what another person said, people are upset because he said the word. The word that shall not be said.
Right.
He that shall not be named. It's like this mixture of superstition and primitive magic. And somehow people believe that if you say a particular word, you're either going to have power over someone or you have committed some horrible crime by saying a word.
How about the Monsanto debate?
Yeah.
We have corporatism in bed with corporations in bed with the government. You have this corporatism has literally never been seen on the world before. This is never.
We were upset about the idea of the Nazis and the Italians and their fascism, and this goes far beyond that fascism.
By far, just with one corporation.
And the Congress passed a law specifically for them to make them immune against lawsuit.
Our Congress, the United States Congress, passed a law protecting the corporation Monsanto from the public. Isn't that exactly what the Congress is supposed to not do? Aren't they supposed to protect the public?
Yeah, so again, they're done. What the heck? But what do? On the other side of it, we ask the same people that created this monopoly to force them to do things like, well, if you would just make them label their products. What? You're asking the entity that you're mad about, the state's the one that created the Monsanto monopoly, then you're going to turn around and ask the same people to make them label their foods. There's nothing free market about that. The free market would say that, first of all, Monsanto is not protected by nothing. If they're going to damage people, they're toast. They don't have the government protection to damage other people, and that's all that monopoly is. They have a government-protected monopoly to damage and harm people. The market would say, no, because that would be us, consumers. No, we're not buying your crap. That's it. And then they say, well, how do we know? Because it's not labeled. You just quit buying anything that doesn't have a label. Guess what? People will start labeling their own crap because they want to sell it. They're going to go, wow, everyone's associating our commercial goods with Monsanto goods. We need to start labeling and say, we are, big letters, we are not Monsanto GMO food. And bang, it would happen. Why doesn't it happen now? Because the state has a monopoly granted to Monsanto.
Protecting Monsanto from people suing them for damages.
And then people want the state to come back and put something on Monsanto.
Same thing right now with immigration.
It's circular stupidity.
They're putting so much hope in Marco Rubio, and you hear people like Sean Hannity and Glenn Beck and all these talking heads that are supposedly conservative saying, we need to get good people like Marco Rubio in office. And they throw all this political weight and all this money goes and there's the big fight. And then, lo and behold, they get their person elected and what happens? Marco Rubio was one of the sponsors of that immigration, what is the best word for that? It's a monstrosity. I mean, basically, it's offering amnesty for those who have been breaking the law and makes more hurdles for those who have not been breaking the law in order to get a job in the first place. It's more government interference in the market, government interference with freedoms. It's everything that Marco Rubio was supposed to fix, And yet he is one of the worst offenders of doing the things that he said he wasn't going to do.
Because he's just a person.
And what was the reaction? I just heard it this morning from Glenn Beck.
Oh, we got to get rid of him.
We need to get somebody better in
You're
there.
on my list, buddy.
If
We're
you
going to
wanna-
get a good guy in there next time.
If you want to run against Marco Rubio, I'll help you run.
Yeah.
That's great. Is that what we need? We need more politics?
So Marco Rubio's the big hero for them. Now Sanders is not.
Right.
And the next guy will be the same thing. So that's what we get with to vote.
Imagine that. You vote some idiot into office and expect him to change something, and it doesn't change, it gets worse.
And wait. What's the definition if you do the same thing over and over again and think that it's going to change the next
Something
time?
about insanity.
Oh, that's right.
Insanity.
It's like we're a battered wife.
Insanity.
Showing up at church with a great big old black eye, a fat lip, and scratches on her face saying, "Oh, I fell down the stairs." I love my husband. He's a great guy. Don't know. My husband had nothing to do with this. I fell down the stairs. It's my fault.
You live in a one-story apartment.
I fell down the one stair. Repeatedly. I was forced to strike my face against that nasty stair. It's not. No, my husband's a great guy. It's like we are a battered wife. And instead of calling people to call out the brutal batterer, it's like the rest of the people are coming alongside and saying, "No, that's right, honey. You stand by your man."
No, not even that. We're going to celebrate. We're going to celebrate in 4 days, 5 days, whatever it is. Today's the last day of the month, or tomorrow?
Tomorrow. On Thursday.
Frustrating.
Yeah, on Thursday we are going to basically have a great big anniversary celebration. What are you going to get your husband? He deserves something really nice this year. He's been so good to you.
Buy him a new flag.
Honey, you need a little more makeup to cover up that bruise from where you fell.
Buy him a new flag. I want a new flag so I can burn it.
All right, we are up against the Fox News here at the bottom of the hour.
I think we need to read a little bit of the Declaration of Independence.
This is KFAR. Fox News is now.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. The mercury soaring in the west could even affect flyers as high temperatures up the risk of takeoff issues with planes.
Excessive heat warnings in effect all across areas of the Southwest because of temperatures like these. Lake Havasu City getting to 126 and Death Valley up there to 128. Tomorrow, Las Vegas 117, Death Valley 129. The highest temperature ever anywhere on the planet recorded was in Death Valley 100 years ago at 134. You're going to be at 129, and same goes for Monday.
Fox meteorologist Rick Reichmuth. In South Africa, not everyone happy to see the commander-in-chief.
President Obama, since he took office, has been going across the world and transmitting war.
One protester in Soweto ahead of a town hall-style meeting. The president did meet with family members of Nelson Mandela, who's critically ill, hospitalized with a lung infection. Fox News, we report, you decide.
KFAR is on the air and on the web. Live streaming, archives, and chat on KFAR660.com. Plus, daily updates on our Facebook page and streaming direct to your smartphone with the free TuneIn Radio app. Get connected.
Welcome back. This is hour one of Patriots Lament right here on KFAR. We call it the Saturday morning wake-up call. And joining us in the studio, as always, from Big Horn Enterprises, we have Josh Bennett. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning.
And we also have Claudio.
Good morning.
Good morning. Do you want your last name on the radio, Claudio, or do you think most people know that?
Oh, that's fine.
All right, Claudio Gomez. Gomez de Sanchez de las Rosas. De las Cruces. Okay. Claudio Gomez. Good to have you here. All right, Josh, you wanted to read the declaration?
Yeah, I'm going to read some of it. In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. You know, people already get it wrong right off the bat. I've been reading a few things like, that's when we became the United States of America. No, it wasn't. That was like years later we became the United States of America. These were the independent colonies of America. Get it right. Or don't talk. Thank you. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve... Man, I gotta say something. I really wished I could have watched Thomas Jefferson read this. Or I wonder if he read it. I can't remember. It would have been sweet to have this read. Or, how about after they signed into law and they stood up in Philadelphia on the platform there and they read it to all the people there? That would have been cool. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, the decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. So this is like the little preamble here. He's saying, you know, before you just sever ties, you need to have a little backup for you. Why are we leaving? And one of the reasons that he was writing this was they were writing to the rest of the world, to the people of the colonies, but they were also declaring this to the other nations of the world, like Holland and France and those such things, basically putting their case out to the world, because you have to remember that all these other countries had kingdoms also, and the last thing a king wants is someone, even if it's somebody else's subjects, to revolt, because that might mean that eventually, 6 months later, your subjects on another part of another land might find out that these people are revolting, and your people might revolt too. That is why they had to, they felt the need to give the reasons why they were cutting the bands. They should declare the causes which impel them for the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal. They are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights. Now, I'm kind of giving a little bit of... I'm going to do little voiceovers while we're reading this because we have to think. Was Senator the Dick Durbin a few weeks back, and I even heard, who else? A Republican said it the other day. Oh, well. Anyways, so one of the things that our congressmen say now, or your congressmen, whatever, those jackholes in Washington, these people over here, they say, no rights are absolute. We know that. Wrong. You're wrong. You're pathetic. You're stupid. You're a statist pig, and you're wrong. All men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. And among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, otherwise known as property, which I wish Jefferson would have kept property instead of happiness, but he didn't. And that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. So, when we talk about rights precede governments, we have it right here. To secure these rights, so they would have to have already been, they instituted governments among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, any form, borough, city, national, state, whatever, any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter and abolish it, and to institute new government or no government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. So you have the right to set up the government you want that you think will protect you and keep you happy. My opinion is no government, so that means I have the right to set up such. If you believe in the Declaration of Independence. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed, aka USA. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, and if we aren't under absolute despotism now, what the heck is it? It is their right, now I say, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Remember, they're not talking about security from Mujahideen. They're talking about the security of your right to property. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyrant over these states. To prove this is the declaration for the world. Let facts be submitted to the candid world. He refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has refused his assent to laws. So, laws that were actually good ones, that protect people's rights, the king was like, no. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be attained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless these people should relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. Okay, back in the colonies, he would refuse to allow laws. He's the ultimate lawgiver, because he's the king, ordained by God himself. He would refuse legislators to pass laws unless he would refuse laws to be enacted unless the different colonists. You can read this in Conceived in Liberty, where the king would actually dissolve your representation, and then you can do that. Basically, I will be the ultimate ruler, the king. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He used to call them back over to England. I demand all the blah blah blahs, and they'd go over there, and they would literally harass them until the representatives of the colonies would consent and finally be like, fine, I'm done. I'm going to go back with my tail between my legs.
Kind of like a special session.
Yes. Exactly, a special session.
Having a special session every single time.
Yep.
Except to have a few months travel time to get to England again.
Well, that's much worse. Much worse. They have to have extra travel time. I can see drastically different from what we're going through.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Totally
That's I mean, there's no correlation here at all.
None whatsoever.
Put your blinders back on, Steve. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasion on the rights of the people. I think that is fantastic. Listen to how he puts this. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly. So different representative houses, the local legislatures of the different colonies, the king dissolved them for opposing with manly firmness his invasions, the king's invasions of the rights of the people. So we had representatives that opposed the king with manly firmness. They put the staff down and said, "You shall not pass." So the king came and dissolved them under threat of force and death. Man, where's the manly firmness? That's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
Today?
Where's the manly firmness where they...
Well, stop. We're perfectly firm. You're so silly. We stand up against the president all the time.
Wow. I wish we were on TV for that one.
You missed the hanky waving.
He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, or by the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. That had some to do with the French and the Indians, the wars that were going on then. So the king would dissolve the local legislatures, who were the ones that would call up the militias and whatnot, what have you. And then the king would not allow another election to happen to where they could get their representatives who could, that was the point. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states for that purpose, obstructing the laws of for naturalization of foreigners. Oh, gee, Republican Party. Let me read that again. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migration hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. These guys were for immigration. And they were mad at the king for putting up barriers to come here. The founding fathers were all for people just jumping on a ship and moving in. They were mad, and one of the reasons they're saying here that they're declaring war against Britain and seceding from Britain is that the king is preventing foreigners from entering the land and putting restrictions on not their citizenship, but just putting the restrictions on their naturalization into the land.
What would they say about the fence? What would Thomas Jefferson say about the fence that they're trying to build on the U.S.-Mexican border?
He'd probably just go back into his grave. I don't know. He'd be horrified. These people would be horrified. And we're led to believe that that's the right thing. I mean, you can hear a guy talking about the founding fathers would be blah, blah, blah. No, they wouldn't. About immigration, they'd be pissed off that you guys are holding people out. Because that's part of the free market and pursuit of happiness. Because at the very beginning, folks, it didn't say all Americans are created equal. It said all men. All nationalities, all people are created equal. There's no better person individually just by birth. And these people were serious about it. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing to assent to laws and establishing judiciary powers. Holder. He has made judges and I'm not going to waste a lot of time comparing Holder to Bush. They're all the same. They're scumbags. Status pigs. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment for their salaries. Doesn't that sound familiar? Except it's not just one guy. It's a body of people. He has erected a multitude of new offices. And sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. All the three-letter acronym agencies. Think about, I know they're just talking about, all these multitude of new offices were just a couple, like the stamp collectors. There was like 5. And they were menial. They were nothing, really. Compared to what we have now, not even close.
Yeah, you think about it for just a minute. I mean, in terms of the number of agents that we have on the ground here in Alaska, from the DEA, the FBI, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, Explosives, and BS. Also, you've got the TSA. You've got the
OSHA, FEMA,
every
transportation security,
every area of life, from commerce to entertainment to travel.
Swarms of officers to harass our people. and eat out their substance. In other words, living off the taxes of the people.
They're leeches that make their living by sucking your lifeblood.
Yep. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. I still do not believe in standing armies. Neither did the founders. He is affected to render them. We're so back-asswards now, we cry and whine and moan because money might take away an F-16. Give us more.
But thank God they're expanding Fort Wainwright.
Yeah.
500 more troops to be here in the area. Well, I'm going to feel so safe, John.
Oh, me too.
I love the smile on your face when you said that.
That's George.
He has affected to render the military independent and superior to the civil power. That was a big thing, and that is what is today also. Were you going to say something, Clown?
No, we're saying you're going to have new neighbors.
He has combined with others to subject us to jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. For quartering large bodies, that could be just like UN, anything like that, where you have a foreign entity that claims jurisdiction over you besides your whatever. Quartering large bodies of armed troops among us. We don't necessarily do that today. Well, they are among us, but not in our homes. For protecting them by a mock trial from punishment from any murders which they should commit in the inhabitants of these states. Let's see. How many police officers have you heard of getting prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law for killing someone? No. Doesn't happen.
Now, the FBI just did a major study looking at all of those violent episodes. Every single one of those agents that was involved in a shooting in the last year.
No, not the last year. It was 10.
Oh, the last 10 years.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
It was a little bigger scope. But they investigated it fully, and every single one of those officers was found to be justified. You can trust them because you know what, they investigated it.
So the FBI investigated themselves and found they did no wrong.
Well, the FBI investigated the other FBI agents. The same thing happened down in Anchorage. They're investigating right now all of the shootings that have happened, including the one just last week where the guy got out of the car with a machete. He obviously deserved to be shot dead by that police officer down there in Anchorage. But they're investigating it just to make sure that he was justified before they tell us that they found he was justified.
Maybe they discovered the perfect crime then.
Well, maybe they discovered the machete and the knife after they shot him dead. We don't know. I'm assuming that they would not tell us anything wrong. They wouldn't try to mislead us about another police shooting that just happened to be the cousin of somebody that they shot dead, in April. Because his big crime, if you remember correctly, was that he was asleep in his car.
Oh, yeah.
And when they woke
in
him,
the Safeway parking lot or something like that?
In the Safeway parking lot. And when they woke him up, he picked up his gun.
Supposedly.
Well, again, we have to believe the police.
That's true.
We have to trust the police. If the police, they're all honorable people. If they say,
I know.
If they say that he wouldn't put on the gun, then
King George is honorable too.
Then we have to believe them. But go ahead.
La-da-da. For cutting off our trade with all parts of the world. That doesn't happen.
Except Cuba.
And Iran. Pick your country. Free trade? Nah, only if the state allows you. For imposing taxes on us without our consent.
We have the consent. We voted to send everybody to office. We all participated. We gave our consent to all of the taxes because we sent the people there that voted for those taxes.
That goes against what this document says, though, because they were in the same situation and they said we do not consent.
Oh, but you see, now that can't be.
True, they're dead.
Yeah.
They obviously died for a reason because they were wrong.
They deserved it.
This is for Frank, our buddy Frank Turney, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury. And we've talked about what that benefit is. the king would actually not allow, at times, trial by jury. And guess what? There's several supposed crimes that the state decides that you don't deserve trial by jury.
Not even an option.
Not even
There are
an
also a number
option.
of federal crimes that are that way.
Mhm.
For instance, what happened with that fellow that got thrown in the mud by the Gestapo up there.
Yep.
That's right. He's like, hey, look, they attacked me. They tried to board my boat in the middle of the river. And no, he didn't have the right to a jury trial, is what they said.
Oh, man. That's just, come on. Ugh. For transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses. Huh. We know that happens. And it doesn't necessarily have to be beyond seas. It's going to other jurisdictions where you don't live. Even though now we do have the NDAA where they can transport you across the sea anywhere they wish to hold you indefinitely. They don't even worry about a trial.
No. That's not being held indefinitely. That's being called rendered.
Oh, is that rendered
That's
now?
rendition. I mean,
Oh.
you have to use the right terminology, because obviously, if you're being rendered, that's not being held indefinitely.
That's true. You're being wait a minute. What happens when you render, like soap, stuff like that? You render fat.
Different word.
Is it? Maybe that's how they're intending it to be.
If you go through rendition, there's a very high probability that you will not come out the other side.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is one of the issues with the CIA.
Yes.
And it's, people are still talking about Ed Snowden, the NSA traitor.
Oh, yeah.
He betrayed our country by telling the people of the country what the government was doing against the people.
Modern day Paul Revere, baby.
Betrayed our country?
No.
Well, apparently Paul Revere also betrayed his country.
Oh, he did. He was a dirty rat.
So the treason is to aid, comfort, and to the enemy, right? So
absolutely.
that government consider American people enemy.
No, you're assuming
Government.
you're assuming that by him aiding the people of the United States of America by telling us about what the government was doing that was illegal. No, there are a couple of substitutes you're making there. First of all, that we are aided by that knowledge. Are we actually being aided by knowing that the government is surveilling us and breaking its own laws?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Well, in that case,
we're the enemies of the people. We're the government's enemies.
That's the second assumption that you have to make there. I mean, in terms of the logic of it, because if a guy is being charged with treason, the person he's aiding is the enemy. Therefore, we,
the people,
are the enemy. Which would also explain why they would have to surveil us in the first place.
That's true. That's true. That's true. For abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies. Part of that was the Canadian province. King George let some Canucks, some French Canadians, stay in New France, stay in Canada, in Quebec, and what he did was he gave them autonomy. He said, I am your king, but you are autonomous as far as your freedom of religion and blah, blah, blah. That just freaked the colonists out because they were Catholic. And the king was imposing his, the Anglican Church on the Americans. And yet he was allowing foreigners to have freedom of religion to be Catholic. That ticked them off. So that's what this part is, abolishing the free system of English law, because he said, you are my subjects, the French, Canadians, but you can have your own laws and your own freedom of religion. And his very people, he was telling otherwise. So if you didn't know why that meant, now you do. Because that's what we're here for, education.
Hey, we don't need no education. You're just another brick in the wall.
All right. For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures, and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate us in all cases whatsoever. Supreme Court.
Are you telling me that King George fundamentally transformed England and the colonies? He fundamentally transformed it?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that a bad thing? Don't we all want fundamental transformation?
Oh, sure. Hope and change, baby. Hope and change. Declared themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. The United States Supreme Court does that now.
And if they contradict themselves, it's only their most recent ruling that matters, right?
That's right.
So let's see what happened this week. I'm just thinking about it here for a second. This week, the Supreme Court ruled that individual states could not.
Oh yeah, the Marriage Act.
Yeah, you got Defense of Marriage Act. That any basically, if any individual state said that a person could marry another person of the same sex, that all states
had to recognize
basically that the federal government had to recognize it across the board.
Right. Which is pretty interesting. I think with that whole thing, I have to mock them because it's fun. The conservatives, look, you got what you asked for, okay? You went to the federal government and said, pass a law to keep the gays out. Well, then the federal government got to make the decision, and they voted against you, you dummies. Why did you give the federal government the authority in the first place? You did it to yourselves. You stayed as pigs.
We're up against the clock here.
That's just my opinion, but whatever.
Fox News coming your way here at 10 o'clock. You've got it on Local Talk Radio 660 AM, online at KFAR660.com. Hour 2 of Patriots Lament coming up next.
Fairbanks is listening. Talk radio for the interior. 660 AM, KF. Next happens here, online and on demand, anytime at KFAR660.com.
If you love wealth better than liberty, the tranquility of servitude better than the animating contest of freedom, go from us in peace. We ask not your counsels or your arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you. May your chains set lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that you were our countrymen. Samuel Adams.
The time is near at hand, which must determine whether Americans are to be free men or slaves. George Washington.
And what country can preserve its liberties if its rulers are not warned from time to time that this people preserve the spirit of resistance? Let them take arms. The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. Thomas Jefferson.
Posterity, you will never know how much it cost the present generation to preserve your freedom. I hope you will make good use of it. If you do not, I shall repent in heaven that ever I took half the pains to preserve it. John Adams.
I sincerely believe that banking establishments are more dangerous than standing armies, and that the principle of spending money to be paid by posterity under the name of funding is but swindling futurity on a large scale. Thomas Jefferson.
Government is instituted to protect property, this being the end of government. That alone is a just government, which impartially secures to every man whatever is his own. That is not a just government, nor is property secure under it, where arbitrary restrictions, exceptions, and monopolies deny part of its citizens the free use of their own faculties. James Madison.
It would be an absurdity for jurors to be required to accept the judge's view of the law against their own opinion, judgment, and conscience. John Adams.
Whenever the legislators endeavored to take away and destroy the property of the people, or to reduce them to slavery under arbitrary power, they put themselves into a state of war with the people, who are thereupon absolved from any further obedience, and are left to the common refuge which God hath provided for all men against force and violence. John Locke.
It is in vain, sir, to extenuate the matter. Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. The war has actually begun. The next gale that sweeps from the north will bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here, idle? What is it that gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but for me, give me liberty, or give me death. Patrick Henry.
My people perish for the lack of knowledge. God.
Some people you can never please. You might as well just let them be. They mock everything not their own from their imaginary throne. But I won't bow down even if the whole world thinks I'm crazy. So hey, hey, this song is for us. So put your hands in the air if you're crazy like us. Hey, 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 that's freedom you hear. Coming right to your ear. That's the sound from our bus. Hey, hey.
All right, welcome to Patriots Lament right here on KFAR. It's local talk radio, 660 on your AM dial, but we also are streaming live online at KFAR660.com, and we're even available on your smartphone.
Oh, sorry.
Wow. With your free TuneIn Radio app. Got to remind you not to hit the microphones. All right, I understand you're frustrated.
I was getting excited.
All right, do you want to...
Yeah, we'll wrap this baby up and start taking phone calls here.
All right, in the first hour, we talked about the idolatry of the July 4th holiday and what a mockery it is to those who actually declared independence from Britain on July 4th, 1776, to be celebrating the state that we are now in this government called the United States of America. Because everything that you just read, all of those items that they were saying are justification for leaving the King of England, virtually every single one is being done right now by this government. And
tenfold.
And you know what? It's not something that just started with the re-election of President Obama.
What?
It didn't start with his election either. These are things that have been going on for decades, and people on both sides of the
train of abuses.
All sides of the political spectrum have been participating with these abuses, including Ronald Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
Are you gonna? Is that what? Oh, is that your button?
Stole it.
Sorry, Claudio.
And to wrap up the declaration here, I'm not going to read the whole thing. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble of terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injuries. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. I would say, I'd go a little further, not even a prince, but a legislature. And I would even go further than that, say no man, there is not a man fit to be a ruler over a free people. No man is fit to rule over man. I defy you to name me one. Because it ain't gonna happen. Are you ready to go with that? Let's do the Del Bote real quick. What is our recourse, you may say? What shall we do then? Tell you what we should do. Now we're going to read Atian Della Bote, written in 1552 by a 22-year-old man. Poor, wretched, and stupid peoples, nations determined on your own misfortune and blind to your own good. You let yourselves be deprived before your own eyes of the best part of your revenues. Your fields are plundered, your homes are robbed, your family heirlooms are taken away. And yes, if you can't figure out those things happen here, then You live in such a way that you cannot claim a single thing as your own, and it would seem that you consider yourselves lucky to be loaned your own property, your own families, and your very lives. All this havoc, this misfortune, this ruin descends upon you not from alien foes, but from the one enemy whom you yourself render as powerful as he is, for whom you go bravely to war, for whose greatness you do not refuse to offer your own bodies unto death. He who thus domineers over you has only 2 eyes, only 2 hands, only 1 body, no more than is possessed by the least man among the infinite numbers dwelling in your cities. He has indeed nothing more than the power that you confer upon him to destroy you. Where has he acquired enough eyes to spy on you, if you do not provide them for yourselves? How can he have so many arms to beat you with if he does not borrow them from you? The feet that trample down your cities, where does he get them if not from your own? How does he have any power over you except through you? How would he dare assail you if he had no cooperation from you? What could he do to you if you yourselves did not connive with the thief who plunders you? If you were not accomplices of the murderers who kill you? If you were not the traitors to your own selves? You sow your crops in order that he may ravage them. You install and furnish your homes to give him goods to pillage. You rear your daughters that he may gratify his lust. You bring up your children in order that he may confer upon them the greatest privileges that he knows, to be led into his battles, to be delivered to butchery, to be made the servants of his greed and the instruments of his vengeance. You yield your bodies unto hard labor in order that he may indulge in his delights and wallow in his filthy pleasures. You weaken yourselves in order to make him stronger and mightier to hold you in check. From all these indignities, such as the very beasts of the field would not endure, you can deliver yourself if you would try, not by taking action, but merely by willing to be free, resolved to serve him no more, and you are at once freed. I do not ask that you place hands upon this tyrant to topple him over, but simply that you no longer support him. Then you will behold him like the great Colossus, whose pedestal has been pulled away, fall on his own weight, and break into pieces. You raise your children in order that he may confer upon them the greatest privilege that he knows, to be led into his battles and delivered to butchery, to be made servants of his greed and instruments of his vengeance. Wow. Man, I'm proud. Let's hit up some Toby Keith or something. I feel like I need to get a little bit more patriotic here.
I'll see what I can find.
No, please don't. That was mockery. Come on, you know better than anyone when we're being facetious. Let's take the calls.
458 Talk.
Let's be happy. From now on, we're going to be happy the rest of the show. The next 45 minutes are going to be happy.
458 Talk, the number. Good morning, caller. Thanks for your patience. Who's this?
This is Martin.
Martin, what's on your mind?
Hello, Martin.
Well, thank you for the program, first thing. It certainly is appropriately named. There is a lot to lament over. But before I start lamenting, I'd like to say that the Aviation Historical Museum, I think is the name of it, in Anchorage, is going to have a number of planes in Fairbanks around the 4th in celebration of the 100th anniversary of aviation in Alaska.
Cool.
And they've got a Japanese Zero that they may bring with them. It's a real, honest-to-goodness Zero. I've seen it in Anchorage. It's a real Zero. I don't know what else to say about it. And I hope that they can get it up here. And if I can find out, I'll maybe put something in the newspaper or get on one of the programs. Real quick, a couple of things that, to hear that Jeb Bush is going to be presenting Hillary Clinton with the Medal of Freedom. Yeah, there's a little levity there. I heard today on the radio that our illustrious president's trip to Africa cost $100 million.
Yeah.
And, of course, he just had to get into the gay rights movement in Africa, as if there isn't enough in this country that this man should be trying to address. He's got to go to Africa and get into gay rights.
What world do these people live in? I
Well,
mean,
I tell you
all of them
what.
are in la land compared. I mean, the rest of us have to live in reality. These guys got to be smoking crack or something. There's something going on because they are so out of reality. It's mind-numbing.
It's mind-numbing, but, you know, if you're not offended by what's going on with our government and this administration, then you are a brain-dead troll.
Yeah.
Period. There's so much that is so disgusting on the surface and underneath the surface, and yet you have got tens of millions of people who simply are not going to turn loose of this guy.
Yeah.
I want to preface something real quick. When I was a kid, my family, we lived in the Caribbean. I lived in Haiti for a while. I lived in Cuba for a while. Por eso puedo hablar un poquito español. So I was blessed by not having an ounce of racial prejudice instilled in me by my parents. Not one.
Nice.
I passed that on to my kids. Consequently, the father of my beloved 10-year-old grandson is an African-American man. This kid is the light of my life. So I'm not coming at any of this, and I don't know if you know where I'm going, but... Oh, and one other thing. Jefferson, the Declaration of Independence. 99% of the people in this country have never seen his original draft. But the middle third of the original document he submitted talked about what an evil... This is a slave owner who wrote this.
Yep.
What an evil institution slavery was and what a piece of crap King George was for instituting it and maintaining it in the colonies.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That's a great point.
Yeah, and the southern states would not touch the document. Consequently, when you read it now, and it's not taught in school, he's just a dead white guy, old slave owner. Thomas Jefferson was a brilliant man, and he knew that if it had been accepted, that the days of slavery were going to be over. They meant that. He meant that when he wrote at the beginning, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men were created equal.
Yep.
And they simply wouldn't touch it. The southern states wouldn't touch it. And we could have ended slavery in 1776 or whenever the war. Okay, this thing with Michael Dukes, you guys brought it up. I didn't know if it was okay to talk about, but since you did, I will. We had a...
Wait. Don't say the word that cannot be said.
You know what? Okay.
Just the first letter.
That is a word that is spoken millions of times a day. The only time... I don't know. Listen to the rap music. I assume this guy that wrote the newspaper is on a mission to go to all the record stores and confiscate all of that putrid hip-hop music that repeats the word over and over and over again. I have in Fairbanks seen African Americans addressing each other with this word. And Michael Dukes did not use the word, he said the word.
Yeah, big
and
difference.
I tell you what, the fact that we could have a brain-dead troll want to use his First Amendment rights to deny another man his First Amendment rights is putrescent. But this is got to be an Obama supporter. This is absolutely unconscionable. And this is a radio talk show. There's a phone number that I dialed to get on here. If I didn't agree with you guys or didn't like what you were saying, I could call you and say so.
Yeah.
He could have called Michael and said, man, what you did is offensive to me. What this guy did offends me, and he needs to understand. I don't even think that was his real name in the newspaper. But what he needs to understand is there's a lot of us out here that are getting really offended by a lot of this BS that's coming down from trolls, brain-dead, zombie-like trolls that will eat crap out of the boots of these people that are overseeing this government and then want to get hot about him quoting a word that's in the dictionary. You have got to be insane, mentally ill. I hope this guy doesn't have a driver's license because he should not be operating a motor vehicle.
This is like caller of the year.
Well,
this is awesome, man.
Government is being spread across us like peanut butter on a piece of bread.
Yep.
And these people, this guy wasn't offended by what Michael Dukes said. He has an agenda. He took time to mine all of his, the people that pay for the program, the sponsors, and put them in the newspaper. He wasn't offended by what Michael said. How can you be offended? Go down and bust the record stores.
I think you're absolutely right. His whole intent had nothing to do that he was offended. What you said was perfect. He's using his First Amendment rights because he doesn't like, probably fundamentally, Michael Dukes' stance on several things, so he's using it to destroy Michael Dukes.
It's not just Michael Dukes, though. You mentioned the fact that he went out after the sponsors of the radio station. this person, whoever it is, by his attack, he may even have meant it only at Michael Dukes, but if you shoot a shotgun at a crowd of people, you can't say, well, I only intended to hit that one person. By doing that, he is attempting to damage the entire radio station and what we do for a living here.
Sincere, honest-to-goodness stuff wrong that needs to be addressed by the citizens of this country, and I hope this person realizes you are a brain-dead troll. You want to know what a troll is? 1984 will explain it to you.
What amazes me is that people let a word out of someone else's mouth have so much power. I mean, like you said, this guy, I'm sure, is making it all up. But to let a word have so much power over your life...
It does have power. It's a magic word.
It's the magic word that is used by African Americans all the time in the cities. And if he wants to hear some racism, he needs to tune into the Black Panther radio station in Barry's hometown, or maybe the Nation of Islam, and listen to what they've got to say.
He just needs to listen to President Obama give a State of the Union address.
Yeah, or his pastor tell the country what God can do with the United States.
Yeah.
Well, I think, can I ask you, what's the deal with the show? I called up Friday and there was a recording on.
Oh, I think on Steve's show, he was you were fishing, weren't you? Yes,
on Friday, I went fishing.
Is Michael there?
On Michael Duke's show.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he on Michael, he was gone on Friday, I think. Why was he going on Friday? I don't know why he was gone on Friday.
I didn't
well, so the program isn't in jeopardy over this piece of crap's inability to man up and just address Michael personally, right?
No, well, let me put it this way. I'm the program director of the station. I do not have the ultimate firing or hiring or suspending power. I have not been notified as the program director that anything is up with the program. Let me put it that way.
Well, when I call, and I do call the program, and I try to state my appreciation, and I know there's lots of people in this town that appreciate a number of the programs on this station. And I think anybody that's listening to this needs to get that list of sponsors and either call them or go by and say, we really support Michael Dukes, and we're going to try to support you as much as we possibly can, and KFAR Radio.
That's awesome. That's using the market against the beast, man. That's the way to do it.
You got to push back. These people run the country, and we've got them right here in River City, and it's disgusting.
Yep, that's exactly what you just said is the way to fight back. It's exactly the way. You go right to the people that that sponsor this radio station, the shows and everything. You say, hey, you know what? There might be a jackhole out here and blah, blah, blah. We're coming down and buying your stuff because you're supporting whatever on that station. Michael Dukes, you're supporting Michael Dukes' show. We're coming to buy stuff from you just for that reason.
And there are people who do. I've traveled a lot. I've listened to radio stations from coast to coast, and you can get Beck, and you can get Hannity, and you can get Limbaugh. But we've got a wonderful thing here with this radio station you guys got. And I don't know if everybody appreciates. I know a lot of people don't appreciate it, like the Proll the other day. But a lot of us do, because we can get on here. If I disagreed with what you guys were saying, I know I could call you and say so.
Yep.
And if there was an argument on your side, you'd let me. I've argued with Michael Dukes before.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing about it. First Amendment on both sides.
That's right.
And this guy deserves to be walking with a little boombox on his shoulder, listening to something besides this radio station.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate
all right, man. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks for your support, too.
Somebody must have said something, because all of the phone lines just went nuclear here on us. So, anybody can take another call, Josh? Bring it. 458-TALK is the number. Good morning, caller. Who's this?
Yeah, good morning, Frank Turney.
Hey,
Frank Turney. How you doing, brother?
Hey, I don't know. I'm watching out for these crazy-ass crackers.
Yeah.
You follow me? I've been down South Tennessee and through the South, and I'm telling you, that's as racist you can get, calling a white man's a cracker, with a whip.
Yep.
And also a little saltine, to make it white. But, I would have no problem with a guy coming up 30 years later that he said, hey, I used the word cracker. You follow me?
Yeah.
And I don't think these sponsors are going to be offended by what Michael said. He was using an example. Anybody who listens to the show. But, we're living in a sensitive society today. if what's good for the goose is good for the gander, or they can actually put a label on the word cracker. Like they do the N-word.
Yeah, maybe they should. There ought to be a law.
So wait, if you went then down to the store and you wanted to buy some saltines, would you have to buy some saltine C words?
There you go. Hey, I called. I feel good this morning. I ate my hemp oatmeal with some hemp chocolate milk. I'm serious.
Nice.
And some hemp bread. I got all my protein, and I know one thing: that it's not being produced by Monsanto in GMO products.
Where do you get that stuff,
Why I
Frank?
bring this up? Why I write Fred Meyers, or you can be up here at the new food land. All that organic food up there.
Yep.
That's a good place to stop. I got my Omega nutritional oatmeal, hemp oatmeal right there. But Fred Meyers also have it. I'm trying to get Safeway involved, but the Mormons don't want nothing to do with it. But anyway, the resolution passed that John Davies introduced. This has nothing to do with you're a Republican, you're a Democrat. I'm trying to get through some of these numbskulls' heads. It has to do with bad food. And the resolution passed 7-2. And, listen, if anybody read the resolution, it was an expressing concern. Also, labeling non-GMO products. I found them in Fred Meyers finally. When I was looking through the hemp milk, I noticed I came across another nutritional milk there, and it said non-GMO products. That's all we're talking about. Now,
but the market did it without the state helping.
There you go. I'm glad you mentioned the markets. I'm a somewhat of a libertarian, but maybe I'm not a full libertarian like everybody professes to be, and when everything's just politically correct, it's got to go this way and that way. When it comes to the market, when it talks about what we consume in our body for ourselves and adults and concerned, damn it, I'm going to use every power tool I can and use the government at the same time. They're the ones that supported Monsanto.
So I know. So why do you want to give them? Well, why do you want to give them more power to then turn around and use it on Monsanto? And the correct course is to get rid of the government's instituting Monsanto's and institutionalizing monopolies. The correct course is get rid of the state.
Well, think about too, and sorry, Frank, but I gotta throw this out here. I mean, remember what happened with Kristallnacht in Germany? We had these bands of thugs going out and breaking windows and attacking the Jews and destroying their shops, and the people demanded that the government step in and do something. It was the government, it was the Nazis themselves that did Kristallnacht. It was an excuse to go in and enact new legislation that gives the government more power by going after Monsanto with the government, even though the government gave them the protection in the first place. Aren't you, in fact, Frank, giving the government more power to go after control on every area?
I understand that. I understand that.
I understand where you're coming from too, Frank.
30 countries in the world have banned this Monsanto and GMO products. And listen, I can't understand. Something is missing here when the marketplace can invite. And they know that Monsanto is bad. It makes you sick, may kill you, and who knows? There's enough science out there to prove it. And we're not supposed to do nothing?
No, we can do something, but not ask the government to do it. That's not the market anyways. That's a government-controlled monopoly. That is not free market. And the other thing, what we should do is if you don't like Monsanto and GMO food, don't buy anything unless it's marked no GMO. We can do it ourselves without asking the government to do it. If you don't buy it unless it says no GMO, guess what? In a couple of weeks, everything's going to say no GMO on it.
Exactly. And if somebody goes out and says something no GMO that is GMO,
you sue their butts off.
Exactly. And there will be consequences
in the
marketplace without having to get violent, without having to go and force anybody to do anything, without having to commit acts of sabotage or vandalism or using the government thugs to go and
Kristallnacht.
I mean, just something to think about. Josh, real quick, contact information for Patriots Lament.
PatriotsLament@gmail.com.
And
PatriotLament.blogspot.com.
Thank you very much.
I thought we had less time.
No, we're coming up on the Fox News right here on Local Talk Radio, KFAR 660 in the AM dial, streaming live at KFAR660.com.
Don't touch that dial. Fox News is here on KFAR.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. The president talking terror in Johannesburg.
Number of people who are killed by terrorist attacks in African countries, or in Muslim countries, or in South Asia, far outstrips any deaths that are experienced by Westerners.
Telling the crowd that democratic governments that serve their people can help prevent acts of terror. Outside the City Hall in San Francisco, dozens of same-sex couples lined up for marriage licenses. They're slow compared to the plaintiffs in the Prop 8 case. Sandy Steer and Chris Perry, the first couple to marry in San Francisco just hours after the freeze on gay marriages was lifted yesterday while in L.A.
Paul Catani and Jeff Cirillo were married by L.A.'s outgoing mayor, Antonio Villaraigosa.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, Jeff. Offer this ring.
The couple embraced and cried. Then the mayor brought out the license for signing.
Fox Radio's Jessica Rosenthal. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Stimulating your senses with stimulating talk.
Having a great time listening to the radio here and just sort of listening to everyone's comments.
This is News Talk 660 KFAR.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my Heavenly Father to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend our state today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
All right, welcome back to Patriots Lament right here on KFAR. Did everybody stand up and give the appropriate salute?
We did.
In that part of this song here.
Ho!
All right. 458 Talk is the number.
Gosh, I mean, how pathetic is it?
I used to get so moved by that song, to the point of tears coming down my face with the emotions that I felt.
To take those rights from me.
The flag still stands
At least
for
I
freedom,
know
Josh.
I'm free.
All right.
No, it don't.
What?
Never. No.
Did it ever? And you think about how hated the Nazi flag was. When people see an American flag in another country.
Oh, they hate it.
When people see an American flag in Iraq, when people see an American flag in... Look what's happening in South Africa right now. Mm-hmm. South Africa, supposedly one of our allies, where their former leader, Nelson Mandela, is laying there dying. Our esteemed leader goes there and wants to visit him.
Wasn't he communist?
Nelson Mandela?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he was a bit of a communist. But,
yeah.
I mean, the main reason why he was thrown in jail is that he opposed apartheid.
Yeah.
And he led the people of South Africa against apartheid, and so he was thrown in jail for what, like
30 years.
30 years? And he's a political prisoner, 30 years in jail. He gets out of jail, runs for president, gets elected. I mean, the whole thing. Anyway, in South Africa today, violent protests against who?
Nelson Mandela?
No.
Oh, snap.
Against President Obama.
Oh, imagine.
And his arrogant visit to their country. How dare he come and ask to visit our hero? How dare he? 458 Talk is the number, shall we?
Yeah.
Good morning. Welcome to Patriots Lament. Who's this?
Yeah, this is Carl.
Carl. All right, Carl, you got to be quick.
Okay, well, I've been meaning to call in. I really think we should have a frank Kearney Day for the state of Alaska. I went to the store. I bought some whole grain bread. Turned out it had hemp in it. I didn't know it at the time. It's really good stuff. I don't know how they make bread without flour. They use hemp. It's really good food, and it's it's really it's non-GMO.
I think we literally just lost the call. 458 Talk is the number. Good morning, caller. Who's this? You still there? All right, let's try the next line. We may have a phone problem that we just lost. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Frank Turney. Can I have a rebuttal?
Sure. Go quick.
Well, listen, I agree with you 100% using government against government and all that in that force. But one thing I made it clear last night regarding Davies' resolution, if anything, it brings back some conscience and public awareness on Monsanto and bad GMO products, if anything. And I guess that's what the government is also about, and that's what resolutions are about, whether we oppose them or whether we support them. And I don't know why anybody would get offended. And one thing I would like to make clear, I really respect Natalie Howard, and she's really educated to me about the Mises and libertarian and the philosophy and all that. But for her to call me a hypocrite last night on a break, I thought, wow, come on now, settle down here. I'm the wrong person you want to be called a hypocrite. I'm pretty upfront. I may be wrong on issues, but, to try to intimidate those people out there that came there, I think sometimes when you think you're looking good, you're really looking bad. And have a good day.
All right, 458 Talk is the number, and I guess that would go both ways, too. I'm just, in terms of...
Well, one of the things with it is John Davies was the one that wrote it, or whatever, the resolution. I don't trust that guy as far as I could throw a rock with my pinky finger. So, John Davies comes with a resolution. He's okay. I don't trust him. I would say he's probably got some little incentives in the background for his friends somewhere.
Just as a point of order, which of our elected officials do you trust?
Oh, none. But some I trust even less than the ones I trust less. And John Davies is even less than that.
458 Talk is the number. Good morning, caller.
Oh, there's something back there. I guarantee it. Let's do some investigating. I bet there's some reason he'll be going down to the legislature before you know it and getting a law passed, and he'll have some buddies. I guarantee it. He'll have some buddies that benefit from it.
Good morning, caller. Who's
Come
this?
on, John.
Good morning.
Knock it off.
Who is it?
Good morning.
Sam.
Sam, what's on your mind?
Well, I heard 3 or 4 people talking at once. I wasn't sure it was me. I just became aware of something. I don't know if you guys are aware of the band Diamond Rio.
Yes, sir.
They have released a fairly new song, and it's been banned on the radios. And I was wondering if you guys had heard about that, heard the song. It's a great song.
No.
It's called We Still Believe in God. And if you can get a copy of that, it's on the internet. I know that. Somebody sent it to me on my Facebook page. And I'm just absolutely livid that President Obama would come out and say we can't be playing this kind of stuff on the radio because it's offensive. And all it talks about is, we still believe in God, even though this and that's going on in our country. But we listen to this rap crap all the time. And all this racist stuff coming out of these people's mouths about white people, what we're doing wrong. I was just curious if you guys had heard anything about that, and if you were even curious about it, if you want to listen to it.
Actually, I had, and it's actually a story from 2005. The song was "In God We Trust," and it's a false rumor. It was not banned.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that.
That's one of those internet. Did you get it on an email?
Diamond Rio is a super sweet band.
Yeah, they are, and the song itself is a very good song. It was March 2005 the first time it was performed, and this rumor that it was being shunned by radio stations was not true. This goes.
Where are you getting your facts there, Steve? Help us out here.
Snopes.
Snopes.com.
Yeah, I got mine on Facebook. I had no idea about it. I'm sure glad somebody brought me up to speed on it. Because
you always, whenever you see something like that gets you emotionally upset, just twisted.
Yeah.
You gotta, before you forward it, before you copy and paste it into your own status on Facebook, before you do anything, go to Snopes, because although they do have a political axe to grind,
yep, they do.
They are very accurate when it comes to whether and they'll give you actual dates involved.
Snopes. S-N-O-P-E-S.
Oh, Snopes. Okay.
Snopes.com, and they do have a political axe to grind. Okay, but
they're commies.
Yeah, but they actually also love truth. Mm-hmm. So I don't mind if
they're truthful commies.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care. I don't care what your background is, what your political persuasion or your personal flavor is. If you give me a date, and if you give me some other source that contradicts that, you know what? That's what I'm looking for, and they do that. They give actual links there, and you can go and check it out for yourself. Snopes.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the information.
You betcha. 458-TALK.
Thanks for the call.
The number. Good morning, caller. Who's this?
This is Joe.
Joe, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I was just going to call and tell you I appreciate y'all. And I was kind of wondering if there was any groups or get-togethers on a regular basis here in town that talk about the same subjects we talk about on Patriots Cement.
Yeah, there is. There's the
Campaign
for Liberty. The Ron Paul meetup group. Ron Paul's not necessarily the subject matter on it. They just called that because that was the name of the group, 2007, I think, or 8 when it first started. The Campaign for Liberty, they have a meeting every other week, and they, on Fridays, they study a book or they listen to a podcast, and then they just talk about it. Most of it is just interaction, talking to each other about different things. They try to keep it in the book or whatever, the podcast or whatever, but yeah, it's pretty good. It's really good. And lots of good folks there.
And you can hook up with them online by Google. All you got to do is Google Campaign for Liberty Fairbanks.
Yep. Fairbanks Campaign for Liberty or something like that. And it'll go right to the meetup group. And if you sign up with that meetup, you'll get an email anytime there's something going on with that group, like if they're getting together or whatever. And really solid folks on that. Really solid.
I appreciate that. Yeah. For a minute there, I was kind of hesitant about asking because we're jeopardizing the people's.
No, I understand.
By the way, if you don't like Google, you can also Bing it. I just Binged it and found it instantaneously. Very, very top result on Bing. The Campaign for Liberty, Greater Fairbanks.
Startpage.com.
Start page?
Yeah. Start page is the.
So any of the search engines,
Liberty.
You put in Fairbanks Campaign for Liberty and Bing, you'll get right there and get to the information for how you can hook up with them.
Yeah, you can sign up with them, and anything they're doing or whatever, you'll get an email message or whatever saying, hey, we're doing this here, we're getting together here or there or whatever, and here's what we're studying or reading or whatever. Feel free to come. And they do barbecue at Natalie Howard sometimes. And
by the way,
it's friend, fun. It's not a bunch of...
Our friend Dave Giesel, and I raise a glass to him wherever he is, he was instrumental with the Fairbanks Campaign for Liberty. So.
Yes.
Hey, thanks for the call. 458-TALK is the number. Good morning. Who's this?
Hello?
Hello, who is this?
Am I on?
Yes.
Okay, good, finally. Well, I have one problem with that song, God Bless the USA.
Oh, me too.
And that they ask God to bless the USA, but then they thank the lucky stars. And I think we should be thanking God for the blessings that we still enjoy in this country. And then one more thing. I have asked the mayor to proclaim 4th of July a bell-ringing day instead of fireworks, which have been banned, which is a good idea under present conditions. I think that we should all get together and ring whatever bells we have on the 4th of July instead of setting off fireworks. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Wait, why?
What?
Why? Why ring bells? Is there a reason for it for you? Because there is a reason for bell ringing that can go beyond simply a patriotic act. You have a reason for it.
I think we can still celebrate the freedom that we still have in this country. I'm aware of too much government intrusion, and I sometimes think you guys are supporting anarchy.
Oh, we do.
We do.
Well, I don't.
That's fine.
We're not going to make you
No.
become an anarchist.
No, I am a Christian. I will remain a Christian.
Me too.
Whatever happens.
So are we. Yep. This is very, very important that
But
you
I
understand
don't
that.
believe
We believe in worshiping God and not the state.
Anarchy.
I just have a point about anarchy. People think anarchy is chaos, but it's not. When God instituted the government for Israel in the beginning, and that's what God intended, anarchy. They want to have judges to disputes, but when they want a king, God said, don't do it.
He said, don't do it.
Your son and daughter are going to war for him. They're going to take your daughters.
He will tax you.
And he'll tax you.
He'll take your stuff. I mean, if you think about it, God does not want us to be governed by anything but God.
That is true, but if you will read Romans, you will find that there must be some support for government.
You know,
No, it doesn't say
I
that
think
anywhere.
You're misinterpreting it, or someone has misinterpreted it for you. Have you actually
Well, I
read?
don't
Wait.
think so.
When is the last time you actually read Romans 9?
I'm free to Romans.
Romans 9. When is the last time you actually read it?
Oh, not too long ago.
Okay. Well, I would like to invite you to go and read it right now.
Well, I would like you to read it too. And,
Well, this is what I'm
for a
saying is that we
different-
actually have been discussing Romans 9. Josh, you had a wonderful way of looking at it.
well, I have my way of looking at it. You have yours.
Okay, but now wait a second. You're just telling me that I have to accept your way.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you did. When you called in, you said that
We are
God
free.
supports government.
God has given us free will, and we are free to interpret the Bible for ourselves.
Yeah, you are not trying to fight to here. You just, we believe, like, I believe that by your fruit will be known, right? And if you see the fruits of government, what the fruits of government are?
I see. Yeah, I see.
Are
it.
death,
I see it.
are destruction,
Yeah.
are theft, corruption. And the Bible says the devil came to rob, to kill, and destroy. And those are all fruits of governments, if you think about it. And
I agree.
yeah, and if you see the model that the government that God instituted for Israel was anarchic government. Anarchy, they distort the word now. The word now it have a bad meaning, but it's not. Anarchy is just a form that man lives free from government.
And God even said that when Israel chose the king, he told Samuel, he said, they're not rejecting you, they have rejected me as their king. And actually giving them a king was a punishment for them.
Well, maybe the same thing's going on today.
Oh, absolutely. 100%, absolutely. Thank you so much for the phone call.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for staying
listening.
on and discoursing.
Oh, you know what? Hey, let's go back to the bell ringing for just a second. Why was the Liberty Bell rung, Josh? And they rang it at the reading of the Declaration of Independence.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Well, they were celebrating at that time.
It was not simply a celebration. There is a reason for the ringing of the bell.
Just tell me. I don't
It
want
is
to
to
think about it.
proclaim liberty. It is out of the Old Testament, and there is a verse on the Liberty Bell itself. And I'm not fast enough with the computer right now to find it to read it to you, but I think it's out of Leviticus. The whole point is you're proclaiming liberty throughout the land. And the point is, the reason why you ring the bell is to draw people to God, the author of the freedom, the author of liberty. It is not to celebrate a flag. It is not to celebrate the oppression of others, to make them do what you believe they should be doing. The reason why you would ring a bell on the 4th of July would be to call people back to God. And if that dear caller, that dear lady, if she had said that, I would have 100% agreed with what she was saying. Yes, let us ring a bell on July 4th to call people back to liberty, to call people back to God. But if it is simply because we can't shoot off some fireworks because somebody told us we can't, so instead, let's do something else, some way of making noise to celebrate.
Leviticus
the country.
25:10.
I was
Proclaim liberty throughout all the land and to all the inhabitants of it.
Or you telling me I was right? I nailed the I got the reference.
You shall consecrate the 50th year, this is further to do, and proclaim liberty through all the land to all of its inhabitants. It shall be a year of jubilee for you, when each of you shall return to his property, and each of you shall return to his clan. Yeah, you're right.
Ring that bell until the bell crack.
Yep.
The bell cracked the very first time they rang it.
Must have been Chinese steel or something.
Or maybe God realized a bit of the mockery involved in the setting up of a government
to proclaim freedom. Well, they hadn't set it up though. Not then. It wasn't set up for another several years. And then it was freedom from government. They were free for like 9 years. It was awesome. And then they said, "Man, there's just too much freedom going on.
I'm not being oppressed enough. I'm not being properly governed.
There's no one taxing me. What?
There's no one making my children join the military. There's no one stealing the bread out of my children's mouth."
That's awesome.
All right, 458-TALK is the number. Good morning, caller. Who's this? Ron, what's on your mind?
It's going to be hard to follow what you guys just went over, but earlier you were talking about trust and trusting people on the assembly.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to try to simplify it a little bit. There are those on the assembly who will always support the insatiable machine.
Yes.
And they can never be trusted. And that's a simple way to look at what's going on down there.
Yeah.
And because it's right up what you're talking about. They want to eat us alive, and they're doing it.
Yeah, good call. I mean, that's perfect. You're absolutely right. Like John Davies, one of them. He could never, ever, ever be trusted. No matter what. If he's smiling, you better start worrying.
Mm-hmm.
That's just all there is to it.
You know, I've noticed that there are some people that are just dumber than others.
Go ahead with that one.
And I think that generally speaking, people who choose to run for office are right up there.
Oh, come on!
No, I mean seriously. If you choose, well, I'm just saying that Josh, as much as I appreciate you,
I was done.
I've bought into it too to a certain degree, but there are certain times in your life that you have to ask yourself, is this a good move or is this a dumb move? And people who run for office, I think generally speaking, are stupid.
If they don't regret it later.
Well, yes, especially. Wow.
Especially if they don't regret it later. But I think anybody can make a mistake. Anybody can make a dumb mistake. Anybody can. I mean, and how many times in your life did you say to yourself after you did something, "Boy, that was stupid"?
If I'd known what I know now.
Oh. But we have all been, and we've been conditioned into believing that somehow, well, it's like, okay, it's the emperor's new clothes.
Yeah, but they want to get reelected, so I don't think they're that dumb. They're just self-serving.
Well, but even then, I mean, you remember the story of the emperor's new clothes?
Oh, yeah.
The whole point of it is that you couldn't see the fabric if you were stupid. There was no fabric in the first place, and all these people were talking about how wonderful the fabric was because they didn't want to appear stupid. But by doing, though, they were proving how stupid they were because there was no fabric there in the first place.
Open your mouth and confirm it.
Exactly. If you remain, and again, you just quoted scripture. I don't know if you knew that, but it's in, what is it, Ecclesiastes? Or is it the Proverbs?
I think it's a proverb.
Ecclesiastes talks about where there are many words, sin cannot be far behind. There's.
I gotta get a better Bible searcher.
I'm lobbing, horseshoes and hand grenades here in terms of getting you in the right direction, in terms of whether it was Proverbs or Ecclesiastes. But I think it can very easily be found to this idea that somehow, if you do not speak, if a man who does not speak may be thought a fool.
So you mean fish die through the mouth?
Fish die through the mouth. That's a good one, too. Hey, thanks for the call. 458-TALK is the number.
That's a good point.
Good morning, caller. Who's this?
Good morning.
Hey, Cecily. How are you?
I'm doing good this morning. I was listening earlier, and you, the last white man who had the cojones to talk about all the different words was Lenny Bruce, and he was pretty fabulous about it. He stood out there and as a comedy person and used every single, kite, nip, tap, hunky, wop, white patty.
Wow, you're just trying to get yourself banned, aren't you, Cecily?
Half-breed, mutt, mulatto, Blood, Redneck, Beaner, Ingrate, Jigsaw, Limey, Howley, Scotty, White Trash, Okie, Oreo, Pole. Anyway, he was very good at freaking people out with using the N-word. It was great. Lenny Bruce. And then Mr. Natural was the one from the Doobie Brothers magazine way in the 60s that said, the universe is insane. And it was Freddie who said, it is. So enjoy your day.
Thank you. 458 Talk is the number. Good morning, caller. Who's this?
Hey, this is Jehona, formerly known as Grey Wolf. My hands are no longer bound. What I'm going to talk on today is about freedom, of course, with Independence Day coming up. And that freedom there's a price for it. And the things that you don't give up is freedom. Without sacrifice, there can be no freedom. And it's also about freedom of choice, too, to practice the religion that you want. And that's what it boils down to, is about God. God gave us the freedom. Nobody can take that away unless we give it up. And if you want to give it up, then, you can kiss your butt goodbye.
Maybe that's a good point. Maybe instead of we just rethink the way the 4th of July comes around this week. We were saying that was actually part of the point with when I read that thing about turning your back on the flag. That is not the giver of our freedom. This government is not the giver of our freedom.
The troops did not give us our freedom.
No.
The troops did not give us liberty.
That comes after freedom. God.
Aren't they fight for freedom in Iraq and Afghanistan there?
The same way in which they fought for our freedom in Vietnam, and the same way that they fought for our freedom in Grenada.
What are Frida doing there?
Frida?
What are Frida doing there in Afghanistan? I thought they should be here, right? That's a distraction, because as a troop are there, you are losing freedom here, and they're not even aware of it.
Every single person who swears to uphold the Constitution of the United States is surrendering part of their freedoms by doing so. Every single person who puts on a uniform is giving up their own freedom of speech. Everyone, I mean, you look at the entire Bill of Rights, do not apply to our men and women in uniform.
Yep.
They do not apply. You give up your constitutionally guaranteed
We're going to talk about
freedoms.
that next week, because that's one of the things over here that the borough is going to talk about, being able to arm borough employees or whatever, right? So everyone's got the right to the Second Amendment. I disagree heartily. And most people might think, what? You don't want some people armed? No. Some people shall not be armed. And I'll talk about that next week, because I'm fired up about that one.
Wow, you're gonna confuse me here, because I thought that everybody had a right to the Second Amendment.
Nope.
As a
not as
individual person they have, but not as an employee of a government.
That's right. John Jay established that in the first Supreme Court of the United States in 1797, I think. Once you're a borough employee or a government official, your official capacity, you don't have rights. Especially against a citizen, a person, a free man. You are a dog. But we'll talk about that. Because I really am not happy that they're trying to get that passed.
Can you imagine having a borough employee coming out to investigate to see whether or not the smoke coming out of your chimney is opaque?
Or do you want the
and that person is
borough
armed?
tax assessor to walk on your property armed, intimidating you?
That's crazy. I never heard about that. That's insane. I was in Valdez fishing, and the Coast Guard came, right? And there was a guy with a blue uniform with guns and badge and everything, and I asked, why that guy have a different uniform than you guys have? Oh, he works for the NOAA.
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
Yes.
And they are armed.
And he was checking the boat, check what you caught, without any warrant or anything. You just, and you're fine because, they're the Coast Guard, right?
Yeah.
And they're not Coast Guard, it's just government bureaucrat.
Well, we'll talk about it next week, and we will destroy the myth.
Don't touch that dial. Fairbanks is listening. 660 AM, KFAR.